14 to 17 years old, I went and worked for Jeffrey.
I was 16 years old.
I was only 14 years old.
I was a 16-year-old.
I was only 14 years old when I was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein by a 13-year-old friend of mine.
Victims of Jeffrey Epstein on Capitol Hill this morning, bravely recounting their abuse at the hands of the disgraced financier and his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, and urging lawmakers to fully release the Epstein files. Just minutes after that, President Trump, sitting in the Oval Office, called the push to release all the documents relating to the Epstein files, a, quote, Democrat hoax that never ends. Joining us now is Gloria Allred. She's a longtime victims' rights attorney. She's represented 27 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and some alleged victims of Ghislaine Maxwell. Gloria, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
You have seen, unfortunately, so many women in this kind of a position with powerful men. This has been going on for years. You have been involved with it for years. And yet, it seems like there is something about it that is changing right now, what those women did today.
I agree with you, Casey. And I spoke at the rally at the end, the pre-rally to the other rally, and there were many victims, survivors there. And so I think the change that you're keynoting here, that you're focusing on is, you know, the first stage is being a victim, then becoming a survivor. And then I say the last stage, the highest stage, is a fighter for change. So I see a lot of the victims evolving to that third stage, fighting for change. In other words, they've told their story. I think the public has clearly said in all the polls, Democratic, Republican, and the independent polls, they want the files to be released. And the victims are willing to fight for it. They have been delayed justice so many times. They were delayed it when my client Alicia Arden filed the first documented police report in 1997, alleging inappropriate conduct by Jeffrey Epstein. And then after that, in Florida, we know what happened with Alice Costa, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, and somehow a sweetheart deal was made without consulting many of the victims. And Jeffrey Epstein ended up being able to serve his 13 months by going to his office every day and just sleeping in the jail at night. That's outrageous. And then, of course, in New York, when Jeffrey Epstein died, either whether it's suicide, homicide, right now, they were delayed, they were denied justice because there was no trial. They didn't get to confront him, the sexual predator, in a court of law. They were denied justice then. So what about some element, some measure of justice right now? And that is what Congress can help do. They'd like to know the truth. They know their own truth. They don't know the whole picture. And we need to find out from the release of all the files, not having it cherry picked, not having certain names redacted that are not the victims. They want the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. I think that's fair for them to want that. They have to fight for it. I think we as victims' attorneys are tired of like victims being patted on the head in a paternalistic way by certain elected officials. Oh, we're so sorry. What can we do? Okay, there's something they can do. They can do it now. They should have done it yesterday. That's what they're seeking, and that's what they have to fight for, because no one's going to give it to them if they don't fight for it.
Fighting for it, obviously, you're taking on a risk, right? Going out in public. And one of the survivors today talked about how she feels intimidated, that she was threatened. I want to play that and we'll talk about it. Take a look.
I have been threatened. I was threatened by phone. My daughter was threatened. I have been followed. I have been stalked. I have been followed not only by journalists, but by people who do not get out of the car and do not try and talk to me and just drive behind me as I drive my daughter to school. So the fear is very real for us.
What does what the president did today in the face of this from the victims, where he said it's all a hoax, what does that do in terms of ratcheting up the potential for threats?
Well, it's salt in the wound that they already have, the trauma they've experienced from the initial victimization. Now they're being victimized again. Name calling is not going to be a substitute for release of the files. All the files, not just the ones that someone higher up says, okay, these are okay to release, all of them. But I'm focused not on what the men do, frankly, but what the victims are going to do, the survivors, the fighters for change. We have to make this happen. It can't just be a press conference and then it goes away. It has to be a constant drumbeat. I think people all over the country can help. There's so many people all over the country who have been victimized by child sexual abuse when they were children. They never got any justice. Now they want to help the Epstein victims and survivors. They want to help those who were victims of Ms. Maxwell. And this is their opportunity to do it by letting their elected officials know. They're going to make the elected officials accountable if they don't make any third parties whose names are in these files accountable. So this has to be power to the people, so to speak, to make these elected officials do what the right thing is. And I think the elected officials know. It's just that, you know, there may be others telling them that maybe politically they shouldn't do it. They'd have to pay a price. What you just showed is a victim paying the price for speaking out. You know what? If the elected officials don't do the right thing, they should pay a price. The price should be they're not going to get elected next time.
All right, Gloria Allred, thank you very much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Come back soon.
Congressman Massey, he called it inartfully written, I believe was his inartfully drafted. And Chairman Comer said that it would basically, that their investigation they're doing is 4 to 5 steps ahead of where this would put you. What is your response to that?
Well, I support everything that Chairman Comer is doing. The problem is the DOJ is curating everything that they send to the Oversight Committee. So if you drill down into those documents that the Oversight Committee put on the website, you can see that they've been redacted. All of the flight logs have been redacted, and they're running the risk of seeing what they saw with Pam Bondi's binders, that everything that's been released is the same thing that's already been released. And in response to the Speaker's accusation that our resolution was inartfully drafted, well, his placebo resolution, which has no teeth to it, lifted entirely 3 pages from our own resolution. I mean, my staff wrote that, and they were very honored to see that the Speaker used their exact language in his resolution.
Caitlin, isn't the only thing that should matter here also what the survivors think? They were asked, what did they support? And they said they supported the oversight investigation, but they support the Massey-Khanna bill. And they were asked point blank about that, and all of them raised their hands. And that should be what the country listens to. I mean, their lawyers have read it, they have read it, and they're saying that's what they want.
Have you heard if what those survivors said today changed any other House Republicans' minds? Has anyone else said that they are willing to sign on to this?
Well, I've talked to a few of them, and they were compelled in our direction. But there's an immense pressure campaign from the White House on Republican members right now. So I really think you gotta give some credit to the 3 Republican women, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Nancy Mace, who, in spite of all the threats from the White House, which are still continuing, went and did the right thing. They're standing up for women by standing up for this resolution.
What do those threats look like? What kind of pressure campaign are we talking about here?
Well, I'm feeling it myself in my own district. There's been $2.5 million of ads run against me by 3 billionaires who are mega donors to the Republican Party. And one of them's actually, I'm not going to say on Epstein's list, but he's in Epstein's black book. So I've been taking the brunt of that myself. I think what's being run against me is a threat to other Republicans to try to keep them from doing what I'm doing.
And are you worried that it's going to be successful here?
Well, you know, I've opposed the president before, and he said I should be thrown out of the GOP, and in that race I got 81% of the vote. So in some sense I have the Trump antibodies, but I'm definitely going to get a booster shot here.
Well, the White House obviously has been pushing back on that and pushing on that very strongly. But can I just ask both of you, you know, when Trump's calling it a hoax, one thing he said today, Congressman Khanna, he said that no matter what is released, nothing will ever be enough, basically, sufficient for people like the 2 of you. What do you say to that?
Again, this is not about the 2 of us. This is about the survivors. And I think they made clear what they want. They want the files released with the financial information, with the witness memos, with an understanding of who covered up for Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell. I mean, they were rich and powerful people who knew that Epstein was raping and abusing young girls and said nothing. And they were rich and powerful people who prevented him from being prosecuted. And then there were rich and powerful people who got some of these survivors farmed out to them. That's what they said. They want that exposed and they want accountability. And I just want to say about Thomas Massie, look, he's a profile in courage. I hope I don't hurt him in his primary by saying that. But this is about big money. It's about big money that denied justice for the survivors. It's about big money that's stopping these Epstein files to be released. And it's big money that's threatening people like Thomas Massie or any person or any Republican who's willing to sign that discharge petition.
Can I ask you, Congressman Khanna, do you believe that this effort is losing steam, as some people have suggested tonight?
No, I'm actually confident we're going to get to 218. I don't want to go into all the strategy because when we've been more transparent about it, it's just led to a Trump response. But we have a plan. I'm very, very confident that we're going to get there.
Yeah, and Congressman Massie, you too?
Yeah, I'm very confident. I confided to one of the White House individuals who's working against me right now. I said, you know, my mistake was getting 12 Republican co-sponsors on this bill before we were eligible to get signatures, because I just telegraphed to you the 12 people that you needed to whip. And he kind of laughed and he said, yeah, but we're going to get to 218. This is going to happen within a few weeks. And I think they're going to panic here. There's going to be a lot of pressure again on the three women who have co-sponsored this on the Republican side to take their names off. But I think they're going to stay strong.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.